man, let's grind it out, man. Hey, here we are back again in the Black Court, brother.
What's up?
Hey, man, so excited, man. It's been a grind of a week, man. Glad to get here with you.
How you doing? You having a good week?
Having a good week, man. It's just been so busy, man. Oh, man, every day is just a grind. But, that's a good thing, man, when the good Lord got you. Got some business and some activity. It's hard when it's quiet. That's when the problem comes around, man.
Yeah, when it's quiet, you be sitting there like, okay, what I need to do? You know what? I should have called that person back when they call me.
And we stand at the phone,
trying to figure it out. Like, what did I do wrong? Then make it like this right now.
Man, you right, man. So blessed and blessed and highly favored, man. Happy to have the phone ringing, even though sometimes, boy, you just get tired out here.
Yeah. The family's good, everybody good?
Everybody good, man. Hope everybody is good on your end. Son, daughter, everybody doing good.
Man, everybody's great, man. I'm gonna let you start the show off. I ain't gonna front, man. Let me quit fronting, dog. I'm gonna quit fronting, man. I've been excited all week to get here, dog.
Yeah, man, I have too, man. Yeah. Real excited. Nervous energy, man. Nervous energy.
All right, let's kick it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
Man, well, we in the Black Court, man, tonight. Welcome everybody to the podcast. So excited to be here, man. And like we always say, Jay, we're going to start off, man, like your grandmother used to say, man, your mom, eat them vegetables first.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to have some nice dessert. But, boy, this is broccoli tonight. This is one of the big pieces of vegetable right here.
Nah, it's broccoli, but it's that one with the seasoning on it that you get. They cook it in that skillet with that butter, that special butter. You like, man, where they get this butter from? I ain't never tasted no butter like this.
Boy, you from down in Eastern North Carolina when you say skillet. Boy, but yeah, man, you're right. This is real vegetables tonight, man.
Yeah,
this is crazy, man.
Yeah, man.
The heat got turned up real quick on the NFL,
man.
Y'all.
On the first day of Black History Month,
man,
your boy, somebody done made history on Black History Month.
I think it was intentional, man. I think it was like, let's go ahead and pop this off, man, this month and let the world know that it's getting ready to be hot in the NFL, man. Brian Flores.
Yes, sir.
He filed this lawsuit that is historic and dangerous and broad and comprehensive, man, alleging systemic racism in the NFL, man. It's on now. It's on.
Yeah, man. I was I'm trying to think, man. Did it break at night? I think it broke. It was the first day of, you know what? Was the first on a Monday? I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, whatever. The first day of February was, the story broke late at night. And I was like, wait, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And, Brian Flores, for those that don't know, has been, a hot candidate for an NFL job this hiring season or this off season. It just got started. But why don't you let everybody know what happened?
Man, Brian Flores, he filed this lawsuit against the NFL alleging systemic racism in terms of their interviewing and hiring practices.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's strange because this kind of has been out there for a long time. It started with the Rooney Rule. There was this uproar about Black or African-American coaches, minority coaches, not getting an opportunity to interview when there were vacancies in the coaching professions in the NFL.
Yeah.
So they implemented the Rooney Rule. I think Rooney used to own, Leonard in here, you old Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Leonard.
Yeah,
and man with 100 names. LG, Graham, Leonard
with a TH. But didn't Rooney own the Steelers at some point? He still owns
them. Yeah.
Does. Man, Rooney Rule 100 years old.
This the son, I think, at this time.
Oh, the son owns him now?
Yeah.
Speak up, man.
And I want to get into that, too.
Yeah.
That this ownership, the average ownership of an NFL team is like 40 years.
Wow.
It's insane. I think that's part of the issue.
That's got to be the issue because you own it that long, man. Your practices become stable. You decide to be inflexible.
And you 80 years old.
80 years old. You back in Reconstruction with your hiring practices and all that. So I get it, man.
Like I'm following what Ford did. What's the problem?
I'm telling you. It's interesting though because Rooney or the Rooneys on the Steelers. Well, guess who got the only black coach in the league?
The Steelers.
Tomlin, my man. Side just let y'all know what's up.
That mother look at you too hard, boy. You get scared when that mother look at you.
That mother look through you, man. He looks through you, man. But it's interesting that this rule was implemented to create a format so that teams were forced to interview minority and African American candidates. Now, isn't it interesting? There's a difference between interviewing somebody and hiring somebody.
Yep.
What the Rooney Rule didn't do was mandate that the people who were interviewed got hired.
That's right.
And here we are.
Yeah, I believe there were 3 black head coaches, or had been, or at that time there was 3 black head coaches at the time that the Rooney Rule was implemented. And the spirit of the rule was that it was important to, black people or black head coaches or coaches in general they didn't even have a chance to interview. Like, they weren't even being called upon to interview. So the Rooney Rule was enacted so that, hey, at least give them the chance. And that's all they had been getting up to this point, is an opportunity to just go and interview. And it's helped a little bit, but not as much as people had hoped.
Well, and then therein lies this new term, sham interview.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you get your chance to come in and interview, but it's all just to fulfill the team's obligations under the Rooney Rule. And that's what Mr. Flores is alleging, is that, hey, man, y'all bought me in, but, you had already determined that you weren't going to hire me, so it was a waste of everybody's time. So that gravitates into this allegation of systemic discrimination, not only in the process related to the interviewing and the exploring of the business relationship, but also he's alleging that there's a disparate circumstance concerning the results of these hiring practices, that in truth, minority and African American candidates are not being hired because of their race. So kind of 2 different allegations. Discrimination in the process and discrimination in the result. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, let's slow walk this thing, or put it in the crock pot like Nana used to put that roast in there.
With that corn in there.
Man, she started off about 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. And that thing, by the time you get out of church, about 2:30, you hot, sitting on the couch waiting for the food to be done. And finally, man, she opened up that pot and that thing just fall off the bone.
But if you're going to get me upset, you have one of them crock pots sitting there and you don't have no cornbread.
You got to have cornbread.
But you got to have cornbread sitting there too, dog.
Well, hold on. Listen, I know we got to talk about this, but now we going to deviate just a little bit. You're from Conroe, Texas. Every week Conroe, I have to Texas. Confirm that that's where you're from.
That's right.
All right. What kind of cornbread did y'all eat down there? Is that the hot water cornbread?
I don't know if it was hot water or not, but if it ain't sweet, I don't touch it.
Sweet corn. I love sweet cornbread.
Yeah, it's got to be sweet. I don't do that. They make the cornbread with, it's kind of salty.
Yeah. No.
I don't do that. Yeah, that's a sweet cornbread down there that fall apart.
The one almost like cake.
Well, you almost had to put a spoon in there. You got to have your hand in the spoon to get that out of that thing, man. Yes, sir.
All right, I'm sorry, man. All right, so check it. So Brian Flores, he files a 58-page lawsuit against the NFL, dog. And I wanted to read something from the complaint.
Okay.
It said, it's 32 owners, they're talking about the NFL, none of whom are black, profit substantially from the labor of NFL players, 70% of whom are black, the suit says. The owners watch the games from atop NFL stadiums in their luxury boxes, while their majority black workforce put their bodies on the line every Sunday, taking vicious hits and suffering debilitating injuries to their bodies and their brains, while the NFL and its owners reap billions of dollars.
All right, so I feel you on that.
I told you it's a slow walk, man. We can't run through this too
But let me tell you, okay, so being an attorney, when I hear something like that, I almost automatically say that's a flawed argument.
You like, that's cap, as the young folks say.
Yeah, okay. Because they're non-minority players who go through the same thing.
True.
And when they're looking down from their skyboxes,
You're
they're
looking at them
seeing
too?
non-minority players are going through the same debilitating, injuries and issues as well. So I don't necessarily. I think let's just stick to the sham interviews because I think that type of language in a complaint, though good, if you are inclined to roll with the allegations, that might get your blood flowing a little bit quicker. But that's not. I don't think that's where the meat lies in this action.
Okay, you ain't like that. Let's try this.
Okay.
All right. In certain critical ways, the NFL is racially segregated and is managed much like a plantation, the suit says.
I don't like that one either.
You don't like that either?
Okay. If you're going to reference a plantation, then what you're doing is you're referencing slavery. That's the kind of the thing that you're trying to.
Mm-hmm.
But slaves don't get paid millions and millions of dollars a year to do what they do.
Okay.
So, again, I get where they're coming from because you want to start there and get people's blood flowing and all that. But I just don't. I don't quite. I'm not feeling that as an attorney.
They quoted King too in the suit.
I get it.
You saw that?
I mean, I can imagine.
Okay.
But again, from a legal standpoint, that those things don't necessarily resonate for me relative to this lawsuit. It's really all about whether or not there are, in fact, the teams are, in fact, treating people a different way because of their race.
Okay. As far as people meaning potential head coaches. Because of their race.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And that may actually, in fact, be the case because if you skip to the end of the story, and I think there's one black coach now?
There's one black coach right now. But let me throw this in before you continue.
Yeah.
There's so much information to unpack in this particular situation that I want to. That's why I'm like, let's make sure we slow burn this thing. You talked about how many coaches there are right now in the NFL. In the history of the NFL, I think it's been 120 years of the NFL, right? That it's been in existence. Ken, there's only been 20 coaches, 20 black coaches. So when you start looking at some of the data or the data or the statistics, the first thing you start pulling out is like, well, why has there only been 20 coaches in 120 years?
So let me ask you this, and just, if we're gonna go down that road, don't you think we also have to ask how many qualified candidates there were during that same period of time, and then what are the ratios in terms of that pool of qualified candidates versus how many were hired? Because the assumption I'm making, I may be wrong, is that there are probably a lot more non-minority candidates who have been considered and pursued jobs than there are minority. Maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. I don't know the answer to that, but that's the data I would like to have
like to see
before we make the determination that you say, well, there's only 2 or 3 in the last 5 years. Well, I get that, but how many actually sought those positions?
Yeah, I think that has been an argument. I think that a lot of the owners have at least referenced over the years that, well, there's not a lot of qualified black head coaches. And now what's happened is we're pointing to people like Matt LaFleur from the Green Bay Packers, or Sean McVay, who's the current head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, actually the Super Bowl representative this year for the NFC. You're starting to find, well, what is a qualified candidate? We're not, when you go in, if you and I, we work in the corporate world, but we own our own businesses. But, when people go in, well, you have a large staff. You may provide feedback after an interview, or provide feedback after you do a evaluation each year. They're saying that they're not even getting any feedback from interviews to say, well, what did I say wrong versus what the other candidate said that was right? And let me say this, where also we're having similar situations where, someone like Tony Dungy, who was a long time offensive coordinator with Minnesota, and he was in other places, and it took forever for him to be a head coach. And then you have other people who may be white who get elevated faster and they have less experience. They call plays or they didn't call plays. And when it comes to black head or hiring a black coach to be a head coach, you're going through all of these things that you're saying, well, they don't call plays, or they haven't been an OC, or they haven't been coaching that long. When you have their white counterparts and all of those qualifications aren't there for them to become a head coach. It's either some type of nepotism where, you got in the NFL, you have coaching trees where, Andy Reid is connected to all of these other guys like Doug Peterson, who used to be the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, or you have families in the NFL where people are actually like John Gruden, the former head coach of the LA Raiders. His brother is John Gruden, who was the former head coach of the Redskins.
Well, but see, I'll tell you why I don't like the nepotism argument.
I mean, but nepotism is real in the NFL, though, right?
Yeah, and it's real everywhere else.
So let's do this. I know it's real easy for you and I to slip into an argument in a debate. But so there's two sides of this. There is the legal side and what you can prove, and then there's what the hell is going on side.
But I think there's a difference between nepotism and racism. I mean, because I'm not going to get mad at Deion Sanders for bringing in one of his sons as an assistant coach. I mean, that's the way the world works. I mean, sometimes. What I'm saying is, what I am concerned about, some of the things you mentioned, is that if you look at a benign set of metrics and you put 5 candidates in the same room, and you've got an African-American candidate who, according to those metrics, is a better candidate than the other 4, but he doesn't get hired, we got a problem. But I'm saying, before you get there, though, do that analysis, because what you don't want to do is have 5 candidates in the room. One non-African-American candidate is above the rest, and the 4 are the same, including the African-American, but then you get mad because the African-American didn't get hired. I'm saying we have to. And I think that's what's going to happen here. That's what John Elway is saying. I mean, and I'm not agreeing with him because I don't know the answer. I'm saying when you do the benign analysis of each candidate's capabilities and credentials, what does that benign analysis say? If a team didn't hire an African-American candidate who under that benign analysis was a better candidate, we got problems. And I suspect that's what we're going to find, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll try to play it like that as well, and reserve. I don't really care. I think that as far as sharing my feelings of what I think has happened, but I think we're finally getting to the point. The Rooney Rule, I think, has been in place 2003. So now I think what has happened is that we're starting to have some of that benign data to look at, where you start to say, okay, someone like Eric Bieniemy, he's going on interviews. He hasn't gotten a head coaching job. He's coaching with Andy Reid. He's the offensive coordinator. He won a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. He hasn't gotten a job yet. And well, when you start comparing his resume against someone else that hasn't been as successful as him over the past however long, then that's where these discrepancies are coming in. And I think that since the Rooney Rule, there's more data to say, okay, well, we're starting to get a little confused here. It used to be, well, he's not calling plays, or it used to be he hasn't had enough tenure, or he hasn't won enough, or whatever. But now you have qualified candidates that do have those things on their resume, and they're still not getting hired.
Well, let me ask you the question, because this is what's going to be analyzed in the litigation. Mm-hmm. It's not whether or not that person is qualified. It's whether or not, when this team, this month, went through the interview process, that person was the most qualified candidate then. Mm-hmm. And just because Eric Bieniemy didn't get a job, at a certain point in time with a certain team, doesn't mean he was the best candidate when he was interviewing, mm-hmm. and he was done wrong. It just, you could have this month a certain set of candidates who, unfortunately for Mr. Bieniemy, 1 or 2 of them actually at that point in time in that particular interview process were just actually a better candidate. And I'm saying I don't know the answer to that yet. That is what the litigation will flesh out. But I don't think we can say either way unless we sit down and say, when he went for this interview process, these were the other candidates. This is what was considered. That's what is dangerous about the response that John Elway had. Because John Elway said, hey, look, you made these allegations, but we're going to present all the analytics from our interview process. And I can tell you now these analytics point in the direction of a better candidate at that time. Don't know whether or not it's true, but that's what John Elway said.
So let me pose a question to you then. The difference, well, I wouldn't say the difference between, one thing about the NFL I would say is that, you have 32 teams. Everyone runs their team differently. The hiring process is different for each team, I think, which is one of the problems. So yes, John Elway can present a case of how Brian Flores wasn't the best candidate for that job or for the head coaching job of the Denver Broncos at that time. But how do we know or that he wasn't qualified, or the other black candidates weren't as more qualified than other candidates for other teams? We don't know that. And I think and because we don't have any feedback, we don't have any information from the NFL teams that are shared on why this person was more qualified, that makes it difficult. Because last thing I'll say is, because from the outside looking in, you're looking at folks and saying he seems more qualified, and he's either not even getting the interview, or he's getting the interview and he's not getting the job.
But see, it's interesting what you say again, because Eric Bieniemy made interview for the Giants, the Broncos, and the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. But you can't ask about all the teams because he may not have interviewed with the other teams.
He may
not
have.
So with those particular teams, I'm saying at that point in time, he may legitimately, there's a possibility that he just wasn't the best candidate. But I agree with you. One of the things that the lawsuit is asking for is what you just mentioned. This creating a system that provides universal metrics in terms of how candidates are assessed by all the teams when they're being processed or interviewed or considered. And I think that's a good thing to do, because I think you're right. If you have this general consensus, it avoids the possibility of the discriminatory practices. If you have to meet a certain metric in terms of how you analyze candidates and it's universal, it does help you avoid some discrimination. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, we can move on to some of Brian Flores's allegations against the Miami Dolphins. You talked about John Elway. Let's go to John Elway since you mentioned John Elway. So Brian Flores said, and I've thought about a couple of things here. Brian Flores says that when he had his interview with the Denver Broncos, it was in Rhode Island, New York, and it was at 7:30 in the morning. John Elway and the other people that were conducting the interview appeared drunk and disheveled in the interview, and he took that as a slight, because I'm a black man and this is potentially a sham interview, you guys are not going to hire me anyway, that you're just disrespecting me in this interview. I'm gonna stop right there because I got a lot of thoughts about that, but what is your initial take on that?
I mean, been through it many times in litigation. Your assessment of whether or not someone is drunk and disheveled.
I mean, what if you can smell the liquor on him, Ken?
He didn't say that, though.
I know, but I'm saying, what if he has evidence that he did? I understand. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say that.
Okay.
And so you've got a he said, she said thing. Elway said, look, you told us that we had one time and one place we could interview you. I run the Denver Broncos. You said we had to interview you in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
He said the night before they had another interview, and so they had to fly all night to get to this interview, and they made every effort to give him every opportunity, but the disheveled drunkenness came from we didn't get no sleep because you made us come to Rhode Island. Now, I don't know.
Yeah.
If he says he did a breathalyzer and He knows that John Elway was drunk. I didn't see that in any of his allegations. Cool. I mean, it is what it is. What I'm saying is, I don't know. So I'm not going to sit here and say John Elway was drunk when he came to interview you for your potential NFL head coaching job. That doesn't sound like John Elway, but I can't guarantee that wasn't what happened. I'm just saying I don't know. And if you did a breathalyzer, or if somebody comes in and you got a parade of witnesses that say I smelled alcohol on his breath, if we get that when the trial takes place, okay, good, then we got it. But until we see that, I don't know how you just go off and say John Elway and then we're drunk. I think you got one person saying one thing and one person saying another thing, and we'll see when the trial takes place who's the most credible. I do think that he does have a very concerning allegation about the sham interview regardless. I just sense that the Rooney Rule set everybody up to have a whole bunch of sham interviews.
Can I jump in right here?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you're even pointing to the sham interview aspect of this lawsuit, you know, before you said that, what I was thinking about was, yes, I know we're talking about a lawsuit, but one thing that the NFL hates is bad publicity. We haven't brought up the C name or the K name, Colin Kaepernick. We haven't brought his name up, but we have feelings that the publicity around Colin Kaepernick contributed to him not being in the league anymore. And when we start hearing about, hey, we created this rule and we got end racism in the end zone. We got singing the Black Negro spiritual before the game. We're doing all of this stuff, and we're conducting sham interviews. So I think when you hear someone like Brian Flores say, "Hey, I showed up and Buddy smelled like a pint."
No, I don't want to. He didn't say that though.
He didn't say
So
that,
I don't want to throw that on.
Okay,
because
he said that they appeared disheveled and drunk.
That's what he said, but he didn't say he smelled alcohol.
So
I
what?
just don't want to put that on.
Cool.
Yeah.
What I am saying, what Jay Hill is saying, if all of these things are contributing to this notion that these interviews are a sham, because that looks like you're just doing this because of the Rooney Rule. You're just showing up here because you have the requirement. That's the only requirement you have, as far as I am concerned, as a black head coach. You have to interview at least one person.
I'm telling you right now, I agree with you.
Okay.
You don't have to say Elway was drunk to know that these were sham interviews.
Okay.
I think
cool.
The Rooney Rule is a sham itself. I mean,
True.
It's like, you know, man, it's like giving somebody an ice cream sundae and you don't put no bananas or ice cream in the bowl. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We're going to set up a rule, and we're going to bet that you're not smart enough to understand what we did. We set up the Rooney Rule so y'all could be interviewed, but we didn't put any thresholds in for hiring.
Yeah.
So, great, I get an interview.
Mm-hmm.
That's like every human being out here who's looking for a job. They're not looking for an interview, they're looking for a job.
That's right.
So I think the Rooney Rule was a setup to appease African Americans and minorities in the NFL, and it worked exactly like they wanted.
Yeah.
It got you the interview, and it didn't get you the job.
And you didn't realize what had happened till almost 20 years later.
That's it. You looked down, you had your whipped cream on your mouth and everything, and then you realized your bowl empty and you had no bananas, no nuts, and no ice cream. That's what happened to.
Man, what happened? I'm waiting for that cold hit in my mouth. You know what I'm saying?
That's what they said. They woke up and said, "Wait a minute, we ain't got no job."
Yeah.
That's what the Rooney, and it was a genius.
It was genius.
Yeah.
And you know, the next part of this, which I think is turning into, well, it's one more thing before that. The most, I don't know if it's the most damning thing, but maybe it is. So check this out. Can you ever text somebody by accident?
Yeah, I sure have.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not cool because I've texted someone and I think I was talking about them.
Man, I didn't know it's a thing on your phone, man, because I'm not tech savvy. Where if you do something wrong, you talk and it transcribes it.
Yeah.
And so, like, I had that one time. I was talking, had finished a conversation with somebody, and I was talking, and it was transcribing everything I said.
What?
And I was just about to, because I grabbed the phone, I was like, let me press the button, clear it out. But I was getting ready to send it, and I read what I had said about it. Yeah. I was like, man, if I had said that, boy. So, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes, sir.
Man, shout out to Bill Belichick. I'm not an ageist, but my brother Bill Belichick, the head coach of the New England Patriots. I think he's just turned 70 years old. And Bill is somebody who's been in the league for a long time, almost as long as I've been alive. Not quite 40-something years, but at least over 30. And so Bill, sitting at his crib or in his office or whatever, kicked up, chilling. And he got all the he get all the news. Everybody knows, he knows what's going on. Brian Flores, the gentleman that we're talking about, was a longtime assistant of Bill Belichick in New England. Bill sends a text message to Brian Flores saying, "Hey, Giants." Brian Flores like, "What's up, coach? You know something I don't know?" Bill like, "I heard you got it." He said, "You know how you wait for a little while, you wait for somebody to respond?" Brian didn't respond for a little while. He came back and say, "Yeah, well, coach, do you know something I don't know? I got an interview there on Friday." He hadn't even been to the interview yet. Bill waited a little while and say, "Oh man, I effed up. My bad, dog." He thought he was texting Brian DeBow.
Oh.
So this is talking about sham interviews. Yeah. Bill Belichick, who's the coach of the New England Patriots, not the Giants, knew that Brian DeBow was going to get the job, or the head coaching job, for the Giants before Brian Flores had even gone to an interview, Ken.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying.
And texted Brian Flores that.
Hey, man, it set us up for thinking that the touchdown was at the 50-yard line.
So let me ask you.
The goal became the interview, not the job. Everybody, hey, get to the 50, but you don't get no points for that. You got to get to that end zone. We set our sights at the wrong place. Let them run game on us, man.
So all right. So let me ask you this from a legal standpoint. Yeah. I feel like as just a person just watching SportsCenter and ESPN and all that, I'm like, that's it. That's what we needed. That's the linchpin to this situation, that there's an issue going on as it relates to hiring, bad hiring practices in the NFL. Am I right or wrong?
That's it. This is our moment right here. It's getting ready to pop off.
Let
me tell you what your boy Flores.
Let's go.
Let me tell you what your boy Flores is asking for.
Okay.
This is in addition to a whole bunch of money. Increased influence of black individuals in hiring.
Okay.
Increased objectivity of hiring, termination, GMs, head coaches, and coordinators.
Okay.
Increased number of black coordinators. Let's get this pipeline going.
Yes, sir.
Incentivize hiring, retention of black GMs, head coaches. Come on. Of course.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If there has been systemic racism before, incentivize these teams now.
Yeah.
They tried.
They did try. They said, we'll give you draft picks. Them others like, nah, that ain't enough.
Transparency of pay for GMs, head coaches, and we need to all know what's going down. So I love it because what Flores is doing is saying, yeah, it's about what happened to me, but I want to leave a legacy, and I want to give the people who come behind us a real legitimate opportunity to be head coaches in this sport, which happens to be dominated by minorities. So
I do want to touch on his allegations against the Miami Dolphins, and then I want to get your opinion on how he set up this lawsuit, the infrastructure or the way in which he went about this. So I told you about the Bill Belichick situation. So Brian Flores, I have it in my notes here. Flores went 24-25 in 3 seasons with the Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins. He compiled a 10-6 record in 2020 and went 9-8 this past season, missing the playoffs both years. They said clashes with Dolphins management led to his firing. Multiple people familiar with the situation say. So this is what Brian Flores is saying. He said, let me say this. He also alleges that, what's my man name? Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, asked him to tank games, to lose games, and he would pay him $100,000, basically $100,000, $100,000 to tank games. Mm-hmm. Now let me throw something else in here. Now Hugh Douglas, what's Hugh's last name?
Jackson.
Hugh Jackson. Shout out to LG. Hugh Jackson, who's the current head coach of the Grambling State Tigers, former. Shout out to Grambling State Bayou. You ever been to the Bayou class?
Yes, sir.
Ooh,
yes, sir.
Okay,
yes,
that's
sir.
another story. We say that for another podcast. So, so my man Hugh Douglas said that when he was at the Browns. Mm-hmm. Now let me tell you something, Ken, because this is messed up. There is a mechanism, an apparatus, an infrastructure in place that it seems like has been in place, and maybe I don't want to just say for black head coaches, but I will say that it seems like they are getting them to be the ones to be the scapegoats in these situations. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say this, a couple of things. So Brian Flores, he alleges that a man, Stephen Ross, was going to pay him $100,000 per loss, so that they can get better draft picks. In the NFL, if you don't know, the team with the worst record picks first. And usually the best players are picked first. All right. Then Hugh Douglas, he said that when he was at Cleveland, now Hugh Douglas, you know what his record was when he was at the Cleveland Browns?
Jackson.
Hugh Jackson, excuse me. Hugh Douglas played for the Eagles.
Eagles, yeah.
Do you know what his record was?
What's that?
1-31. They basically say Hugh Jackson, he lost so much that he ruined his career. Like, he can't even coach in the NFL. Like, he couldn't even find a job. He said, I couldn't find a job.
1-31. I ain't surprised.
So check this out. Yeah. So I was watching, I was watching some interviews. He was on SportsCenter. He was also on a podcast where he described there was a 4-year plan. The 4-year plan was not for him, that they gave to him. The GM and the owner gave him a 4-year plan after he was hired. Yeah. And he wasn't a GM, so he just had to focus on coaching the team. The first two years they were going to lose, mm-hmm. and potentially in the third and fourth year, if they would turn it around and win. Here's the thing.
So that was an allegation that they set it all up to lose.
That they set it up. Now this is what he says. He has proof that for those first 2 years, he has documents where he got bonuses because of them losing games.
Okay.
And so when then in the third year, so they lost terribly those first 2 years. Mm-hmm. He started to make a little bit of headway. Well, maybe not much. It looked like they were going to make some headway in that third year, and he gets fired. Mm-hmm. So they wanted him to lose games, and were going to pay him for that. Then fired him in the third season, like, hey, you're not turning the season around.
But see, Jay,
you're not turning the team around. Excuse me.
The problem with that, if he's going to go down that road, we just saw The Last Dance. Okay, what was that? What were the allegations against Jerry Krause?
I don't know. What were they?
That him and MJ bumped heads because Krause and them didn't want MJ in the game because they win games, and then they allegedly would end up in a situation where
tanking is illegal, Ken.
No. We're talking about what I'm talking about. I agree with it. Okay. I agree with tanking is illegal. I'm talking about race now. Okay. Tanking is not race specific to me in sports. I mean, the bottom line is it happens, and it's just like the Rooney Rule. If you're gonna tell people that they get better by losing, some people gonna lose. That's not black or white. That's just I mean, if I'm already a mid-tier or terrible team, and I know that if I lose a couple games this year, I'm gonna end up with MJ in the draft. I mean, I wouldn't do it because it's an integrity issue. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying teams do it, and that was the issue between MJ and Krause. Was MJ had come back. Remember in Last Dance, Krause was saying limit him to a certain number of minutes. And when MJ played the extra minutes, they won. When he played the minutes that Krause wanted, sometimes it looked like they were going to lose. So I just think that those are things that I would really have to, I guess their attorneys are going to really work hard to shore those issues up. I don't know if they have to do that to win this case.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But the issue when you talk about it as it relates to race, I'm not an attorney, but I play one on the internet. So the issue is when you start having black head coaches, that they're the ones that, number one, they come in and they're coming into really bad situations with the worst teams, right?
Yeah.
And then he has let's say he has something that shows that he got bonuses for them losing. The teams tank. Whether we want to believe it or not, or whether it's spoken or not, they do that, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're going to be penalized and get fired for tanking when that was in the plan, and now when I in my third year, you go get another coach, and we have drafted what's my man, Baker Mayfield, the number 1 overall draft pick, and now this coach gets to come in and have benefits that I didn't have. And one more thing, what's my man? What's the old man with the Houston Texans? Coley, I think it's with David Coley, Richard Coley, or something like that. Cooley. Anyway, I'll get his name. He's been a coach in the NFL for 27 years. Ain't sniffed a head coaching job. They get him down there to Houston. Deshaun Watson ain't playing because he got 100 allegations against him, acting up in a massage parlor somewhere. And guess what they do? They fire him after 1 year. And they knew it was bad. I'm just saying, Ken, you're saying as an attorney, and I respect what you're saying, but it kind of smells like that is an issue with race.
Okay, if I'm in a trial, and LG has seen me in trial many times, okay?
Yes, sir.
So I am going to be the lawyer now.
I know, you are.
If you're going to, and we're preparing for trial, and we say, hey, you know what? We on the other side of the fence, and their allegation against us is that we paid them to lose jobs. Mm-hmm. Okay, and LG has seen this many times when I'm cross-examining somebody. And you're going to say, well, they paid me $100,000 to lose games. Mm-hmm. And then after I did that, year 3, they fired me when I started winning games. LG seen me do this many times. I'll sit back in my chair and I'll do just like this, and I'll wait till they finish their direct examination, and I'll start off and I'll do my papers like this a couple times, and I'll say, now what you just told me, because you're here today, right, and what you're doing today is saying that you're a truthful guy with integrity and you've been taken advantage of by the NFL, right? Yeah. Yes, sir, Mr. Harris. And you're a good guy, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm a good guy. And you always try to do the right thing. That's what this is about. This lawsuit is about doing the right thing, isn't it? Yes, sir, Mr. Harris. Always. Okay. And you just told me you accepted $100,000 a year to lose football games. Isn't that what you just said? They paid you $100,000 a year to lose football games and tank so you could get a better draft pick. And you did it, didn't you? And that's the problem with going down that road, is I think they'll be in a much stronger position to talk about the fact that these interviews were flawed. And I think that's exactly what happened here, is that Rudy Rule set it up, sham interviews, let's look at the results, and then let's just work backward and show what happened in these interviews. And like you said, man, I think some of the stuff they're going to pull out is going to be ugly. Like they had already decided who to hire before you even came in to interview. I think that's where the strength lies here.
I'll say this, and I'd love to see what you think about how his attorney's approach to this case. the reason I continue to go back to this is because, for the record, Brian Flores said he told the owner, Stephen Ross, that he couldn't do that. He wasn't going to do that. So he didn't do that. But and he was fired, he believes, or he alleges, was because he wasn't agreeable to that approach. So I just want to put that on record as it relates to Brian Flores.
Yeah, I think I was focusing more on was Jackson.
Yeah, my man, Hugh Jackson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
not knowing what he did. But if he did, I think that would be a big
I feel
problem.
you.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to say this. Hugh mentioned this. I think Brian Flores is trying to showcase this, is that because the head coaching jobs for African Americans are so far and few between, that you're getting into these situations. You almost have to accept lose-lose situations. You're going to the worst situations. You don't have a great quarterback or a great team. You're going to lose, and you're going to lose. And then when you get fired, they say, see, he became a head coach, but he can't coach. So they're put in bad situations. And I think what they're trying to do is paint a picture of all these scenarios of saying, look, we're in a tough situation. We're going on sham interviews. If we do get a job, it's with the worst teams. When we get there, we're asked to lose. When we lose, we get fired. We're the first to get fired. You know what I mean? We don't get to have any tenure there to ride the wave out. So, I mean,
it's going to be a tough argument because, again, the question becomes whether or not they're non-minorities who go to bad teams and lose and get fired. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to be – I just think they better stick with the arguments concerning not speculating, but this is what happened. Mm-hmm. This is what I experienced in the hiring process. Mm-hmm. And then you start looking at the results, and it appears that there is some racism not only in the hiring process but also in the results. Yeah, I think if they stick with that pattern, I think this lawsuit is going to end up in the right place.
Well, what about how he set up the suit? So he set it up. If he makes it past a certain point, it can turn into a civil suit, and it would allow other coaches, if they feel like they've had experience some of the same situations, that maybe they can join the suit. What do you think about how he set this up and the job that his attorney?
Well, you can't have a class without a class. So, I mean, he wants a class action lawsuit.
No class.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? That's right. Hey, are there individuals out there who went through a substantially similar situation such that you can organize them into a class and make the same allegations against the NFL? And I think that's to be seen. That's what he's seeking. He's now called on other coaches who experienced a similar dynamic to join in with the lawsuit so that they can pursue it as a class action, which obviously would create a big economic great economic risk to the NFL. Yeah. If they can certify that there's a systemic type of discrimination that affected a lot of potential coaches over the years and led to this dynamic where you don't have African American or minority coaches in the NFL. They're going to bump up against situations like Mike Tomlin, who has been successful in the NFL, has been a coach forever. Yeah. So when you start arguing that there's systemic racism, but you have examples, even though there are only a few, where that doesn't quite appear to be the dynamic, that's an issue you have to deal with at trial. Because you said everybody got together and created this system. But, if everybody's involved, why do you have these examples where it didn't work out like that? And I think also just the biggest thing is the NFL is going to come and say, you said that John Elway was, drunk and whatever during your interview. Well, you have the burden of proof. And you saying he's drunk and that's all it is your observation. You have the burden of proof. John Elway in the NFL doesn't have to do a thing. Yeah. And if it's 51% John Elway and 49% you in terms of believability, you lose.
Gotcha. Yeah. Before we move on to another subject, I did want to say this real quick. First, I don't think that his suit is I think before that suit, he could win that suit. the NFL would pull him to the side and try to settle it and try to get some other things done before that happened. And I think that's what he's hoping for, that some change will be made like that.
Jay, I think you're exactly right. That's why he lays out these additional prongs related to what he's trying to accomplish, even at the beginning of the lawsuit. And they are not necessarily things you're going to get via this litigation.
Yeah.
So I love it. What he's doing is trying to do something for the minority community as a whole. He may get more of these things than he gets relief for himself, but he set it out that way. So props to him and Colin Kaepernick and everybody who's engaged in the battle.
I wanted to say this for you though, to you. I had a thought though when he mentioned that John Elway and his team showed up disheveled and appeared drunk. And I thought about something. If this was when Brian Flores, real quick, when this was his first time, this was before he became a head coach of the Miami Dolphins, right? And maybe he hadn't been on the scene a lot where he's, done business at a certain level. And you and I and Graham and I've been in the entertainment business before I met you guys, and like corporate America is totally different from being in entertainment and sports. There's drinking going on, there's other things going on, there's different ways that people entertain. And so I wonder if
well, I'm laughing because I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anything legal. I'm just wondering if there's a situation because listen, man, if I'm hiring you, if I'm an owner and I'm hiring you to be the head coach of my team, number one, I'm paying you millions of dollars a year. Number two, our wives may be hanging out together. We got to travel together. We got to go to the draft. We got to go spend all this time in Indianapolis for a whole week, right? Do I want to hang out with you when it's time to leave and we finish our work? You know what I mean? Are you gonna be a stick in the mud? I'm just saying.
That's part of it. But what I'm saying is, first of all, we don't know whether Elway and his man were drunk in the shelter.
Okay,
so
he said
that's just an allegation.
Yeah.
But let me say this, man. I mean, I hate to be, just cut to the point, but so what?
That's my point. Yeah.
What if they were out drinking?
What does that mean?
What does that have to do with whether or not, I'm saying? Okay, I get it. I get the allegation because what you do is you try to demonize the other side of the litigation.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what he did. He said they were drunk and disheveled, and that's an indication of their thought process in terms of how they were. They weren't serious about the interview process. I'll tell you right now, if I represented the Broncos, I wouldn't necessarily see anything wrong with saying we drunk at every interview.
Matter of fact, we drunk right now.
Matter of fact, I had a beer and a scotch just before we walked in. I do it all. I drink.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't mean I drink before every interview. That doesn't mean there's a racial component to the interview. So that's what I'm saying. You got to be careful. I'm not saying obviously he's got some great lawyers, but if he drives down that road, I don't know how successful that's going to be because there are clear defenses to those types of arguments.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Feel you. All right, well, Brother Flores.
Props to him, man. Props to Brother Flores, man. He doing his thing. And props to Cap, man.
Shout out to Cap.
Cap is a Capper. Of course, he's done us proud out here, man. And he sacrificed, man.
And I believe, Ken, I'll say this, man. That's the sad part about it. People, I mean, they're seeing it on when they're doing reports or there's commentary about this case. People are saying, I'm talking about white people that are reporting on this. They're like, Brian Flores is putting his NFL career on the line. Like, I'm having a problem even processing that.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Like we all know that he's putting his career on the line by just trying to do what he feels is right. That right there it's like an oxymoron to the whole subject.
He's addressing an injustice. It's bigger than him, and props to him for doing it.
But you ain't gonna work no more, dog.
Yeah, he ain't even. I mean, he's thinking about that, but he's not thinking about that. Plus, there are gonna be some teams out there that say, "Man, Brian Flores, great job, brother. We see how you handle your business on that." It might not be but a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some teams out there who want their brother to come on in and handle
Man, I could talk about this all night. Last thing, Ken. Yeah. What do you think about him filing this suit in the middle of his hiring cycle? Like, as he still went on the New Orleans Saints job interview, and like had filed the case and said, "Hey, I'm still coming to the interview, I'm not dropping the case if I get hired." I'd
be scared to hire him, right now, because you're scared that you're gonna get into some nonsense.
Yeah.
And it's not nonsense. I mean, that's the wrong word. You're gonna get into some litigious type situation.
Gotcha.
But there are teams who are gonna say, this is a stand-up gentleman who fights for what is right, and he's an attractive option at head coach.
Yeah.
And so I hope that's the way it ends up, man. Hire the brother, get him on in there, let him have his day, handle his business, but more importantly, put in place this infrastructure so that Brian Flores will be a name that we remember, not only because of his coaching prowess, but because of what he accomplished for everybody else. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Man, that's some good vegetables right there, man.
Yes, sir.
Seasoned broccoli, you see,
man.
Skillet. Skillet.
Yeah. What do they call it? That blackened broccoli.
Blackened broccoli.
Sauteed, that's the word.
Man, you know what I had last night, man? I know we run out of time, man, but I had some cauliflower last night, man. Yeah. They put seasoning on. Cauliflower tastes good, too.
Yeah, I eat roasted cauliflower all the time.
Oh, do you? Do you? Okay.
I make roasted cauliflower.
Okay, make a bro.
Yeah, I got you, man. I make some for you. I'll whip some up for you.
Do you eat the mushroom?
No, I hate mushrooms.
Okay.
I mean,
I seen people eat mushroom sandwich. I tried. It was the worst thing I've ever tried. The big flat, they try to trick you into
mushroom burger. Yeah, cut it thick.
Yeah, you're supposed to think it's a hamburger.
No, sir, that is not
terrible,
a hamburger.
Man.
I don't know who thought of that. That's terrible.
Man, terrible. Portobello or something.
Portobello sandwich.
Oh,
the other worst part is when they cut it up, they blend it up and try to make it a burger. They mash it together with some beans. That's terrible too. Terrible. Yeah, man. Ken, man, I'm gonna tell you. I don't know if I told you this, dog, but growing up, man, my family. I gotta give it to my brother Pat Hill. Shout out to Pat, man. Like, he was, a huge Michael Jackson fan. And it just rubbed off on my whole entire family, dog. Like, we just love Michael Jackson. When I was a kid, I think maybe around 8 or 9, we went to go see Michael Jackson in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is the Thriller tour.
What?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Thriller.
Yeah,
bad. He was gone. We couldn't get that ticket. But yeah, back on the Thriller tour, he definitely went to go see. No, matter of fact, it was the Jacksons, the Torture, like all of that. We went to go see them there. I think that's what it was. And I remember my family going to see Janet Jackson. I didn't go to this, but this was the Rhythm Nation tour. Dog,
that was smoke.
I forgot, man, how heavy Janet Jackson was out here in these streets, dog. How she was running the game for a minute. Did you see the documentary?
Man, I watched quite a bit of the documentary.
What'd you think, man?
Well, first of all, man, you can't talk about Janet Jackson without talking about the anthem, man. She taught us all how to love, dog, when she came out with Let's Wait a While.
Let's Wait a While.
Man.
What's your favorite Janet Jackson song? That's it?
Let's wait a while. That's the way love goes and Pleasure Principle, man. Those are my two private, my two. But Let's Wait a While's message.
When she did that more. That was it.
Man, I want to know how many times she failed when she did that chair thing. I know she didn't do that all in one take.
Oh, she definitely failed.
Because she was even unstable when she did, But anyway.
Is that her best video? Is that better than Rhythm Nation?
Yeah, I think because.
What's the one with Cab Calloway?
Ooh, all right. Yeah. But Pleasure Principle, man, she did that. She carried that just herself.
She dolo in that thing.
I'm gonna carry that weight by myself.
She was cooking in that thing too, boy.
But man, the most profound lyric in the history of music is "Let's wait a while before we go too far."
Terrible lyric.
Come on, man.
Terrible lyric.
Come on, man.
Terrible lyric. Beautiful song.
Yeah.
Beautiful melody. Terrible lyric.
We go too far.
We supposed to go too far. We don't supposed to wait.
Boy, that thing right there said shivers
That was great. That was great.
Yeah,
that was a great record. Man.
Ooh, man, props to Janet, Terry Lewis, and Jimmy Jam for doing that thing. I love that part about the documentary. Their interface together, their creative interface was actually just off the chain, man.
Yeah, it was great, man. I saw Jimmy Jam without his ponytail wrap on.
Oh yeah,
he didn't have it tied up. I saw his hair was loose, and I saw him without his hat and the glasses on. I had never seen him without that stuff on.
Yeah.
But it was cool, man. It was cool to see just how I didn't know she could write. You know what I mean? I was really surprised to see that she would write.
It was that Rhythm Nation, dog.
Yeah,
her writing that, and how that she developed that with the social consciousness. That was incredible, man.
Yeah, and man, that tour was just so huge. I mean, that album had Black Cat and Rhythm Nation,
and she wrote Black Cat.
All right, that was crazy. And I could dance really well. A lot of people don't know, but I was really heavily into dancing. In my junior high, in my late little elementary years, I loved to dance. I could do all the hammer dances and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, she had that video with Cab Calloway, It's All Right, or whatever the name of it was. Man, I used to love it.
You have some bad memories, man.
What happened?
Because you could dance. I think you were in some dance groups.
Yeah, I was in a couple of dance groups.
But I was living off that wall. I tell you right now, you got my brother had no dance moves, man. Go to that wall, man. The thing that broke me out, man, I hate to diverge, but the thing that broke me out, got my dancing game up, was when Boogie Nights came out.
Boogie Nights?
Yeah, Boogie Nights.
That one.
Dance with the Boogie. When that came out, that's when I started, really.
Got to keep on dancing. Keep on dancing. Yeah.
Before that, living off the wall.
Yeah,
I was on that sideline.
What's up? What was it? You didn't have I've been around. You're a very confident person.
Yeah.
You just didn't have that confidence, or was the moves didn't come together?
I didn't know how you became a good dancer. See, my boys were practicing.
Yeah, you gotta practice.
But nobody told me you supposed to practice.
You just think it just hit you and you just know how to dance.
And of course, I went to, like we all did, I went to a black school. So
when
we had dancers, man, that was the difference maker.
Oh.
If you had practiced and handled your business, I thought we were just going to the dance and somehow naturally, organically.
Man,
I was supposed to be able to dance, but man, it took you about 5-10 minutes to know that you need to slide on over to that wall, dog. That's safe territory.
Let them have it. Let them have
that, man.
Listen, man, I'm gonna tell you, talking about practice. Let me tell you, when I hit my apex in being able to dance, I think I was in early ninth grade. My sister, I don't know if she was home from college or what. But man, we had this little patio outside of our house. We played basketball. And I used to take my dad's boombox and I would go out there and I would practice dancing. I had a move, Ken, where I'd be dancing, going to one side, and I'd spin. And now I'm on concrete.
What?
And my sister, I didn't know at the time, she was looking out the window. She's older than me. She's 7 years older than me. She's looking out the window. And she knew I liked to dance, but she didn't know I could dance. Man, I spent around, and I can't do none of this now, but man, I spinned around, and there was this move, Graham knew about it, Graham used to dance too, where you fall all the way to your back. Like you bend your knees and you're standing up and you just fall all the way down to your back like that and pop back up. What? I did that, boy. And hey, Graham, when I popped to the ground, I looked at the window like that.
We didn't look at it like that.
Looked at the window like that.
Let you know how I do.
It popped up, dog.
Hey man, dog. Let me tell you something. I know we got to talk about Janet, but Jay, that's exciting stuff, man. To know that you usually do that.
LG, hey. I looked at her.
You didn't look at her, dog. Man, it's really sad. One of the most traumatic moments in my life, dog. And I know we gotta get on Janet real quick. I ain't gonna take too much time on this, man. But I was my mom and my aunt Rebecca. Rest both of their wonderful souls, man. Yeah. Me and my cousin Steve. Shout out to my cousin Steve, like my brother, man. They want to have one night where we were performing for them, and Steve would do dance shows and stuff. Like, continue. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, continue and all that. So, you know, I was like, but like I said, I didn't know. I didn't know you practiced. Yeah. They was like, yo, you Steve, do a little show for us. Mm-hmm. But Steve had all the continuing experience. So
had the continuing routines and everything.
He went first and he did his thing, man. He could do his spin like you was doing, man, and all the Michael Jackson stuff and all that. And so then it was my turn. This is my mom and my aunt now. Yeah. I loved it. You know, mom and aunt always protect you, always in your corner and all that. Yeah. So I came out, I did mine. You know, I did my dance, right? At the end, I looked over and they were laughing. Man, you talking about somebody running out the room crying? Man, I was like, that thing to this day,
it scarred my dog.
That thing, man. That thing still, I can still see their face laughing.
Yeah, man.
So I said, man,
they were laughing. So, that boy smart, though. He's smart. He's smart, though.
Yeah, man. So, you know, that's part of why I'm like Sir Nose, man. That's why I don't really, you know, get into the dancing thing. But you and LG, y'all brothers had it popping.
Listen, I used to listen. I could dance for a little minute, boy. I could dance.
Y'all were in dance troops, right?
Yeah, I was in a couple dance groups, man. Yeah. My best friend, Gilmore, he and I used to dance together. I was in a couple groups, man.
Man, I wish I could have got that. Hurt me, man. But Janet, man, that pleasure.
Janet, I forgot about Janet. Hey, LG, I was still on my back, though.
Hey, man, you still on your back?
I was still on my back.
Look. Hey, man, she a magnificent. I didn't know she was that deep, though.
Yeah, man.
Because y'all all remember Penny.
Yeah, man.
Man, I used to love Janet Jackson when she was
love Penny.
Yeah. I was mad when I found out she was being abused by her mom and all that.
Listen,
on Good Times.
We was hurt for real. I was telling my wife that I was like, yo, we were hurt for real. Like, yo.
I was like, I wish I would see Penny's mom.
You know who Penny's mom is, right?
Who?
Kim Fields' mom.
That is right. That's
her
real
Kim Fields' real mom. Man. But we were mad at her in real life, though.
If I had seen her, man, I would have been. Everybody was upset, but even at that young age, man, Janet was handling that business because her acting, in that role affected all of us, man.
Yeah, man, we were hurt, and I don't know, like when the original Good Times came on when she played her part Penny. I'm not sure if I was alive yet, but you know, in the 80s, we watched reruns of Good Times like all the time. Like that was one of our favorite shows. Yeah. And I just remember Janet, I forgot, man, how famous, how fine, how just she was such like in our lives like for a long time. My brother had the first album that flopped that she talked about. Yeah. My brother had that album. I would go through his albums. And I was like, dang, Janet got a... I didn't know she had that out. What's the name of this right here?
Yeah.
But, you know, I was talking to you earlier, man, and it was surprising to find out that she didn't even want to go into the music business.
Yeah.
She wanted to go to, Pepperdine and study business law.
She wanted that normal life, man. It didn't happen that way. And that's always the issue, man. It's like, yeah, we hear you complaining about how things turned out while you walk back to your $30 million mansion.
Well, it'd be all sad laying in a Bentley.
You know, things just didn't turn out the way I really wanted them to. Well, doggone it.
Who wants all this money?
Yeah, I just, the fame and all that, I really am upset it went that way. So, you know, it's always that thing, but they go through a lot, man. She went through a lot, man. I mean, with her relationships, with the guy Renee, and then the bars, and you know, so it's you know, they say Bobby Brown, you know.
Yeah, she didn't make any mention of Bobby
Brown. She
kept
that on the low on her.
She edited. She like, nah, we're gonna cut that out. Like
Brown had that front and center. It was 20 minutes in one of his episodes.
You know how it is. You ever know like. You ever know somebody in a relationship, right? Or they talk to somebody, and there's one person that they like, yo, man, you know I used to mess with so-and-so. They tell everybody. Right. And then the other person don't never want nobody to know that they used to mess with that person. I was like, man, Janet just like, listen, I'm never in life saying that I messed with Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
And you know, don't know why
Bobby
she got
was
like
big.
that.
Bobby was big all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has some tough relationships. You kind of feel like with the Jacksons, like they all kind of went through stuff because of what they went through when they were young. It's kind of like, it seemed like they had the foundation was off a little bit, you know. So
when you say the foundation, I just think that, when you're trying to make it in the music business or sports, you guys know this, it's so hard to be, number one, to have all that talent in one family is ridiculous. Even though if everyone couldn't be Michael Jackson, to be able to sing and to be able to dance like that, like it's just it's rare. And then the other thing is that, man, they weren't just famous, like they were like supernovas. They were like the hottest thing in the world.
man, it's right, Jay, and it's a trip. It's like, you ever seen them Doctor Strange movies?
Of course.
Like where reality is distorted.
Yes, sir.
When you're a Jackson, your realities are different.
That's right.
You don't have, I mean, it's not like you don't have money issues. Money is not really, I can get whatever I want.
Man, they said they were making $100,000 a week back in the mid '70s.
$1 billion a week. That's $1 billion a week back in the '70s, man. You can't spend that money, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And she said it was cool. She was like, I don't know. If you haven't seen the documentary, there's a spoiler alert, but she said she recorded something on a little reel and she forgot to delete it or whatever. And her dad, Joe Jackson, the mighty Joe Jackson, heard it and was like, "Yo, you singing?" And next thing you know, she was putting out an album, and she didn't want.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, but he put her on, man.
Hey, man, that's what I'm saying, man. I know people, had their feelings about Joe Jackson.
Yeah.
Joe Jackson handled his business.
He did, and
I ain't saying he was perfect. I'm just saying he handled his business. So.
Did you ever see the movie American Dream or the documentary?
Yeah,
the movie about the family. Yeah, that was cool too. But I also love, Renee, her husband. For a long time, I didn't know that they were married. I just thought the dude was there all the time. I was kind of young. I didn't really put that together. Yeah. But I didn't know that he was on pills or he had gotten strung out on drugs. That's sad, man.
But I did like the part where they talked about the fact that he stabilized her life and provided her a lot of help and assistance, because my image was that most of the guys that were around were, just sponging off of her.
Yeah.
But, he brought a lot of stability to her in a time when she really needed someone. So I like that part of it too. But what I really like the most is that Janet Jackson
was fun.
Well, she was history, man.
Yeah. She was what?
History. She broke a lot of barriers, but she always seemed to be in Michael's shadow.
Yeah.
But she handled her business herself.
Yeah.
And as a black woman, come on, man, she did that doggone thing, man.
I felt like, how you really don't see the talent, like I was saying before, in a family or in a group. And, because someone like Michael Jackson is so talented, arguably, in my opinion, the greatest entertainer ever to walk earth, in my opinion. Yeah. But like somebody like that being so popular, like it doesn't matter who's next to him, it's hard to see the talent of someone else. Yeah. But I really felt like when you look at the Jackson family and them, the way we look at that family, like, oh, they're so talented. I feel like she helped anchor that. It's like, a whole family can sing, but it's just her and Mike.
I agree with you, Jay. It's almost impossible as a sibling to do what she did.
That's right.
There's so much pressure in trying to come. I mean, it strangled Marlon and Tito and all them. They even Jermaine, who was very talented, couldn't quite climb out of that spotlight. But man, she busted out of the spotlight.
Yeah, she did, man.
Handled her business, man. So I got to give Janet
one thing that touched me was, I never knew. I've seen this in the rap world, but I didn't see this as much. Or I didn't know that this happened back in the day. That when Michael was going through his first allegations and everything back in like '93, that when he came out with the album was called History. There was the single on there which was Scream. I didn't know she did that as a favor to him to help him get back hot. and establish
and that was great. And the video was off the chain.
Yeah. Video was great.
Yeah.
So it's a great documentary. Anybody who hasn't seen it, man, I think you should go see it. Shout out to James DeBarge, man. James DeBarge was wild. In real life, he was wild.
That thing was a struggle right there.
Yeah, man. She was so young
That's
and innocent.
That's a whole different story, man.
Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah. And then shout out to Reeve on the centipede joints.
Centipede! man, Reeve about 80 years old.
That's the Lost Jackson right there, man.
Man, it's like you hear her name. It's like she a trivia question.
Yeah.
Who's the oldest daughter of
I think she was on the documentary, man.
She's all through it.
Yeah. So, she the Lost Jackson, but she had her moment. You got to give her props. Marlon had a couple of hits too, man. Well, he had one hit.
Marlon, that was the one he was running around, he was dancing in that suit.
Hey, man, let me tell y'all something. There is one Jackson we know can't sing.
Which one?
Marlon.
Can't
sing?
I
ain't never heard somebody strain and struggle so much. But his song ended up being a hit, man. So
what was the name of the song?
I couldn't even tell. You can't.
He had a video though, right?
Yeah, he had a video where he was trying to dance and everything, man. And, he was really struggling to sing. But man, you got to give props to the entire family. And then I will say, okay, let's give some props to Joe Jackson.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. We talked about, Richard Williams, Serena and Venus's dad, Joe Jackson.
Mr. Knowles.
Matthew Knowles. Yeah. It's really hard to break into these types of arenas, man. And then not only that, to just get in it, get a record deal or anything like that, but to be the best in it.
We got to do a podcast and talk about that and how the community needs to start, our community needs to start giving props to some of those parents.
Yeah.
Man. I know King Richard kind of started the trend, but there are a lot more parents out there in the industry who did wonderful things to create these one-of-a-kind athletes or entertainers.
And star something.
Hey man, we need to do a show on that, Joe.
I know when we do that show, I'm a star or something. It's the man or somebody, man. Why is it all of those incredible black men have a negative connotation around them?
I think that's right.
From Richard Williams to Matthew Knowles, low key a little bit. Shout out to Matthew Knowles. Thank you for taking me to meet him. Joe Jackson. This documentary, I love that it painted him in a different light.
Yeah.
That they understood, at least Randy Jackson and Janet Jackson did, that if it weren't for him, we wouldn't have any of this. Yeah. And that the reason he was so hard on us is because we lived in Gary, Indiana, and it was terrible here. Yeah. And he didn't want that. That was the same thing Richard said about Compton as far as Venus and Serena Williams. So we have to give a little bit. I don't like the negative connotation when it comes to their names, so we have to work on that.
And so, and as we end up tonight, man,
yes,
let's go ahead and throw them last props out to Janet, because Janet, musically beautiful, wonderful, and handled her business, man. You ain't gonna give me to say the other piece. So.
Why not? I mean, listen, when she was fine, I was a kid, so my wife know that.
My wife give me license to talk about one woman.
Who was that?
Other than her.
Sanaa Lathan?
No, Whitney. Man, I used to be a
Whitney who? Oh, God rest her soul. Whitney.
Whitney dog. So
yeah.
She let me talk about Whitney. That's all. I can't.
Whitney in Houston. Yeah. That was like you had a thing for Whitney.
She know it too.
Oh yeah.
Felicia know. I told Felicia. I said if Whitney had come along same time Felicia came along,
All right, so man, quit playing. I know we're gonna leave on this. All right, what was the
Felicia was? Felicia looked like vanity.
Yeah, you talking about your wife? Yeah, I know. So check it. What was the finest version of Janet Jackson? Since we're here, you nervous? Let's keep it 100. I'm trying to have a good podcast, man. My wife support me on this podcast. Okay. You know what it is.
Finest version of Janet.
Yeah, so let's think about it. That's the cute face Janet when she was on Fame and all that. You don't like that. You was in high school or in college doing that.
I don't know what type of belt that was she was wearing on that Pleasure Principle video.
That one?
But somehow they had pulled it as tight as it could get.
Yeah.
And that was it.
What about I like thick Janet on Control with the black pants and the hair like that. You know what I'm saying? She had the little joint.
I'm wrong.
Or the Rolling Stone Janet.
No. you know,
Velvet Rope Janet.
No, yeah, they're Velvet Rope. That's the way love goes, Janet.
Ooh.
That was the one right there. When I saw that,
that's when she had them guns.
When I saw that video, man, you know, hey man, when I saw that, I was like, ooh.
Before, listen, we not keeping it a band on here.
Ooh.
Listen, before Halle Berry,
yeah,
Janet Jackson was the it girl for the black community, right?
Before who now?
Before Halle Berry.
You were getting Vanessa Williams.
Hold up, Vanessa Williams. That's
come on, dog. You tripping now?
That before or after Playboy?
Huh? What is Playboy? I've never heard of that. What is that? Some type of show or something? Yeah,
Vanessa
so
Williams.
Get me in trouble.
The dark skin one or the light skin one? Which Vanessa Williams you talking about?
No, light skin. Come on now.
Miss, what was she?
Miss America, dog.
Okay. She was hot
right.
then.
Yeah,
In
who
the
else
80s?
was it? Yeah. Yeah, Janet was all right.
She was like little girl straight.
Yeah, but she wasn't no Vanessa Williams. You
What?
Start talking that nonsense.
Okay, I was a kid. I didn't remember
Come on,
Vanessa
dog.
like that.
Come on, dog.
Before that was Pamela Anderson.
Pam Grier.
I mean,
Hey, this is a minority podcast. This is in the black court.
I'm tired.
Dog.
It's time to go home.
It's time to go, dog. Yeah, it's not in the court, dog. It's in the black court. All right, man, we gonna wrap it up, man. This dude, we gonna get out of here, man, before he start. Yeah,
All right, so we on the record. You said which Janet was the finest? Velvet Rope.
Velvet Rope.
That's when she had the red hair with the plaits.
Yeah. We gonna get out of here, man.
Okay. All right.
Next thing you know, we be talking about Farrah Fawcett or somebody, man. Let's get on out of here, LG. Thank y'all. In the black court, man, we had some wonderful vegetables.
Yes, sir.
Nice dessert, dog, talking about Janet Jackson and all of her accomplishments. We love y'all, man. We'll see y'all in the black court next time, man.
God bless. Good night.